Hey there, comic book fans. It's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and here I am in the car again, headed down to Third Eye Comics in Annapolis, Maryland, but not for another new comic book day. Today is a very special Saturday morning as they are holding a signing event with Chip Zdarsky, who's coming in to sign one of his new books. That's a launch for today. Can't wait to get down there. I've got some great books to get signed, but like normal, like all these signing events I go to, I'll do some filming, I'll talk with the artist, get some books signed, and then we'll come home and we'll do a little show and tell. So sit back, enjoy the footage, and I will be right back. All right, guys, I just finished up here at Third Eye Comics, and I had a great time getting to meet Chip Zdarsky. I had a lot of books to get signed, and I'll take everything home, and I'm going to get them out of those blue window bags, and I will end up putting them in fresh bags and boards so we can do a really good show and tell. But also here today was somebody named David Brothers. I was not familiar with him, but he and Zdarsky had worked together on a book called Time Waits, and this was the official launch party for the collected edition of that book. So I didn't have a lot for David Brothers here today, but I had a lot for Chip Zdarsky. So give me some time, let me get home, and then we'll do that show and tell. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
One eternity later.
All right, guys, I made it back home. I took out the comics from those blue window bags and put the comics into fresh bags and boards so we could do the show and tell. So Chip Zdarsky is somebody, when I think about him, I think about Daredevil and his recent run on there, and I've really enjoyed that. Although I didn't start early on that series, it wasn't until they introduced Elektra taking over for Daredevil that I kind of got into the series. But that didn't stop me from going back through the PC and finding that I did have an issue number 1. I didn't have any of the other issues up until issue 25, but I did have that. So I ended up getting him to sign the very first issue right there. And I will have to definitely save this and some of these other Daredevils for another signing with Chichetto at some point. I'm hoping I'm saying his name right. I know that he had a signing earlier this year at CGC, but that was before Third Eye had announced that Chip Zdarsky was going to be there, or else I probably would have sent something in, one of these books in, maybe a couple of these books in for him as well. But nonetheless, I'll have to wait for a Chichetto signing again at some point, whether it's in person or another CGC thing. So some of these books, in fact, the first handful of these books will definitely have to be held onto for a while, because I'll definitely want to add the artist, and in some cases, the other cover artist on some of these books. But I got an issue number 1. This is actually Legacy number 613. I don't know what year this came out. It's been obviously the last few years. They restarted Daredevil, and with Legacy 649, with another new number 1, Chichetto Zdarsky still on the book, and you can see his signature right there. So I got that signed, and I only did that because it's another number 1. But the real issue for me was issue number 25. Now, I didn't have the regular cover on that. I had several of the other printings, but the only ones I could find when I was getting ready to do this signing was I did have second prints of that issue, number 25, where Elektra does become Daredevil. And this is the splash page where it gets revealed inside the book. You'll find that same splash page in there. And I ended up getting, for this second printing, I ended up getting signed. He signed it right there. And I did 2 copies of that because, as I said, I may want to send these in at some point to another signing somewhere down the road. Now, the real book that I really enjoyed in this whole series was issue number 29, but it wasn't about the story itself, yet it was about the David Nakayama Unknown Comics variation on that. And I've actually got 9/8 signed by David Nakayama. I got those a couple years ago at Heroes Con. I went down there with these books, got Nakayama to sign it. Well, I wasn't breaking it out for this signing. I'll have to wait for another opportunity. Maybe if Chip Zdarsky does a CGC signing, I'll send them in. But I did have more raw copies of that right here, issue number 29. This is the Electra version, and you've got the signature right over here. But the thing I loved about it the most, and this is the reason I did it for my own PC, was there's a matching cover, same issue, as Electra as Daredevil right there. And you can see he signed in pretty much the exact same spot. Well, I did the same thing. I should have broken it out for this right here so you could see the 9/8 that I've got of this with David Nakayama signing. We'll see about if I ever get another chance to get Nakayama. He was at Heroes Con a couple years ago where I got that, but he hasn't been announced this year, and I know he didn't go last year either, so we'll see about that. This will get saved for Nakayama, as well as hopefully that Chiteto signing at some point as well. But love these covers right there. These are PCs all the way. Now, the last Daredevil book I got was another case where I want to get the cover artist. I'll wait for Chiteto, like I've been saying, but I want to get another chance to get Joe Jusko right here. And this was his Kingpin cover. It wasn't really the cover. It's from the Marvel Masterpieces cards that he did. And where did he sign? It's a little hard to see. It's right there on his sleeve. Right there, you can see his signature. That's Chip Zdarsky, that is. So at some point, I hopefully will get the chance to see Joe Jusko again at some point. All right, so that was it for Daredevil, at least from his own book. But one of the big runs that Chip Zdarsky did with Daredevil was also Devil's Reign. And this is part of the thing where he was fighting the Kingpin, who was at this point now the mayor of New York. And of course, the Born Again TV series on the Disney Plus channel kind of mirrors some of this. Well, this right here, Devil's Reign, they had some really good covers. And honestly, I can't even remember what the regular cover was, but I know that Peach Momoko did this smoking hot cover right here with Elektra as Daredevil again, and Chip signed it down here. It is a little hard to see. Now, this, again, just like those Nakayama's, where I've got a 9/8 signed by Nakayama, I've got a 9/8 of this also in the PC signed by Peach Momoko. I did send it into one of her 2 signings I've seen at CGC over the last couple of years. Well, I'm going to save this at some point. Maybe we'll do another Peach Momoko signing. So I've got 2 copies of that, so I can definitely pick the better of the 2 to be able to send in. So I got 2 copies of that Devil's Reign, but the one that actually will get to go into CGC at some point is the John Romita Jr. cover right here. And as you can see, it's already signed by Romita Jr. And down here is Scott Hanna, who did the inking. And of course, there is Chip Zdarsky's autograph right there. So this one would go in for JSA verification to get that graded at some point. I love that cover. It's weird. I go through this phase with more of the current John Romita Jr. artwork, and it seems like there's times when I really don't like a lot of the stuff he's doing these days. Some of that run on the most recent run on Spider-Man was awful. But some of the covers and some of the artwork and some of the battle scenes were really good. And some of his best covers are having these characters squat on a rooftop in the middle of a rainstorm. It's very dramatic. I know the Spider-Man ones that he does like that are fantastic. And I love this one just as much. And that's why I got Romita Jr. and Scott Hanna to sign that right there. And that's kind of cool. I finally got Chip Zdarsky on this as well. So that brings us to the end of the Marvel Daredevil kind of books that I've got. Now, after he left Daredevil, he went to DC, Chip Zdarsky that is, excuse me, and he went to Batman. And that was a pretty big deal. At the very beginning of that run, he was fighting Failsafe, and that was a really good beginning to a storyline. It kind of petered out at the end. But at the very beginning, it was very exciting to see Batman put in this kind of peril. Well, I ended up getting a couple copies of the regular cover of issue number 1 signed right there. These came out really good with that silver paint pen. That right there, I wish he'd used more of that during the signing, because that Sharpie was definitely on the drier side and it wasn't throwing the ink on some of these other books. But these right there look fantastic. But I did get more of issue, what issue was this? 152? Yeah, no, I'm sorry, 125. 125. I did get the Jorge Jimenez cover right here of Failsafe right there. And Chip signed it right there. But the one I really am thinking about sending in for a signing that's going on, well, it's not happening yet, but it's still time to send in to CGC, is the Jim Lee signing with Scott Williams and Alex Sinclair. Well, they did the cover right here, or Jim did the cover and they did all the other work for this cover of Batman 125. I had never seen this. When the book came out, I never saw this cover, so I picked this up recently at a local comic book con, and it wasn't that expensive or anything. It's not a ratio or anything, but this was a pretty cool cover, and hard to see it on there, but you can see his signature right up there. This is one I may send in just as a PC book for myself. I think this will be pretty cool, so we'll see about that. And that was it for DC. And then the last two, I'm switching back to Marvel real quick. A really good recent run by Zdarsky was a limited series, Avengers Twilight. So I ended up getting a couple copies of issue number 1 with this Alex Ross cover. It's Daniel Acuna doing the artwork. It's really good. And you can see his signatures right down here. Whoops, right down here at the bottom. So I got a couple copies of that. Again, a lot of these are with the intent of maybe getting them graded, but only after I add the artist. In some cases, maybe 2 artists on here. And that was kind of the eye I was keeping on this, with some of these bigger keys in the Chip Zdarsky library. And I didn't have Sex Criminals, and there were definitely some other books that I didn't have. But I thought these were all good books to get signed with potential value down the road, getting them graded by and then verified signatures and things like that from CGC. And then the last comic I should say, I got signed was Assorted Crisis Events from Image right here. And this was already signed right here by Dennis Camp, who was just at Third Eye just a few weeks prior to this. And there's several different artists on here, but there's Dennis Camp right there, and then right over there is Chip Zdarsky. Both of them had written stories in this book. So the last thing that I got Chip Zdarsky to sign was this right here. I also had a print of Elektra as Daredevil right there. I picked this up 2 years ago at the Baltimore Comic Con from David Mack, who did the artwork right here. And I think this is one of the covers to that issue 125 as well. I don't think I actually owned the comic that this was in, but when I was at his table getting David Mack's signatures on several things, I picked up this print. So right over here was Chip Zdarsky. And you can see his signature matches David Mack. It's very faint. It's very small, very delicate. And the reason for that was Chip Zdarsky did not want to sign with a big, bold marker and have his signature overpower David Mack's in that case. So he used one of my fine point Stadlers that I had on me, and it actually matches up really good. This will be going back up on the wall pretty soon. I've got spaces up here. I don't know which one's going to come down, but one of them is definitely, I want to rotate some of these pictures behind me, these prints behind me, and we'll see what else we can put on the wall. But that actually was the last thing that Chip Zdarsky signed for me, because I made a huge mistake. So as you saw from the footage and heard me talk about earlier, there was a second person there, and that person was David Brothers. Now, I had never heard of David Brothers going into this. And in fact, I didn't have anything for him to sign. But it turns out the two of them had worked on a book called Time Waits. I think it was probably a 4-issue miniseries. And this, as I said earlier in the video today, was a launch party for the collected edition of that book. And I decided while I was there that I would go ahead and pick up the hardbound book, the collection, and have David Brothers and Chip Zdarsky sign that. Well, as it turns out, if you watch some of the footage, David Brothers was the first person I came to. And so I had the book right here. I picked it up off the table. I was going to have him sign it, which I did. By the way, here's the cover. You can see. I think this is the regular cover to issue number 1, probably. I don't know. I wasn't familiar with the series. But you can see David Brothers signed it right there. And what am I missing? What are you missing? What I'm missing? I completely whiffed and forgot to get Chip Zdarsky on here. I'm kicking myself. What happened was I got David Brothers to sign this, and I put it in the bottom of the pile, knowing that I had a stack of comics. You just saw me go through all those comics, and I was going to give them, and I did, to Chip Zdarsky. And I put this on the table and completely forgot about it. I forgot to get Zdarsky. It's going to haunt me. This is one of those mistakes I hate to make. So at some point, I'm going to have to get this into a signing with Zdarsky. I don't need it graded. It's not going to happen that way. But I do need to get this signed at some point, just because I hate making those kind of mistakes. So, as I said, I did get David Brothers to sign this. But Third Eye, knowing that he did not have a lot of stuff, and in fact, I think he's an editor at Image more than anything, they had this right here. It's called Go Back. Right here. This was a story that appeared in the back of several issues of Newburn, and that was also, I believe, by Zdarsky. But this right here, this story, Go Back, this is a collected edition of those comics, in those stories in those few issues of Newburn, and it's actually by Nick Dragotta and David Brothers. And let me show you what. And this is a Third Eye edition of this. I think Third Eye actually produced this. And they only had 50 of these available, and you could only get one at the table, and that was it. But if you look up here at the top, there is David Brothers. He's signed right up here at the top. And now this is going to have to go to Charlotte with me, to Heroes Con. Nick Dragotta is going to be down there. Now I've got to get another thing to get Nick Dragotta to sign, as well as all those absolute Batmans that Scott Snyder signed for me just a week or so ago. Those are going down, and now this is going to go down there as well. I think he'll probably be more interested in seeing this, because I don't think you'll see a lot of these in Charlotte here come June, but this one's definitely going with me to get signed as well. But guys, that is it. That is everything I got signed at this signing. I had a great time. So at some point, I'm definitely going to have to get this Time Waits signed by Chip Zdarsky. At some future date, I will get this done at some point, I hope. Anyway, I had a great time. I hope you enjoyed some of the footage that I shot there. What you didn't see, though, was me interacting with Chip Zdarsky. And that's something that I got up there and I realized only afterwards that I didn't film that part of it. I thought I'd hit the button, thought the camera was rolling when I was talking with Zdarsky, and we had a nice little conversation about Elektra and about the run and just various things, but I'm not going to remember everything now because I didn't film it. I completely forgot. So it made the video a little bit shorter, I'm sure. But I regret not having that camera rolling. It's fun to see them interact, and you get to ask a few questions and see what their responses are going to be and things like that. I think that adds to the video here. But nonetheless, I had a great time. I think everybody there did. It was great getting to see these guys. First time I've got to meet either one of them, and I look forward to seeing both of them again at some point. All right, guys, that is it for today. If you enjoyed today's video, definitely give me a like and slap that subscribe and click on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the episodes that I put out each and every week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 3 p.m. And guys, definitely leave me a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about the books I got signed, and if these are the books you would have gotten signed, or was there something else I should have gotten signed. I would love to know. All right, guys, I'm out of here. I will see you for the next show. Until then, remember, every comic has a story.